Did Mrs. Figg really break her leg? Hey guys, welcome to NerdStorm. So today we're going to talk about Chapter 2 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. We're going to discuss some of the things about it. But first, if you haven't read the chapter yet, go and do that and then come back and watch. Otherwise, if you don't feel like reading it, well, what happened in this chapter was Harry Potter is 11 years old now, and he wakes up and he has to make breakfast for the Dursleys and things like that. And then they can't send him to the zoo, or they can't send him to Mrs. Figg's house, so they have to take him to the zoo with them, and Dudley's all upset about it. Anyway, they go to the zoo for Dudley's birthday, and Harry, he's supposed to stay out of trouble, but Mr. Dursley catches him basically talking to the snake. And so he gets in trouble, has to stay in his cupboard for a while. Anyway, so we're going to talk about this chapter. Let's go. So we know that the Dursleys are not witches or wizards, but it'd be really interesting to see if they were, because we know that, Lily and James Potter were witches and wizards. What if Lily wasn't the only witch in her family, and this whole family was all witches and wizards, and Lily and James still died, but Harry, instead of being sent to Muggles' houses, was sent to a witch and wizard's house? What would happen with that?
He'd get a lot more fame when he was younger.
That's true.
They'd treat him a lot nicer.
They'd probably treat him nicer. We don't know. Maybe they have the same attitude, but as witches and wizards.
Yeah.
Except for they couldn't want the whole normal life. What if they are witches and wizards, and they just don't want it? So that's why they're so against magic, and they're all like, we're normal,
Well, I don't think that's possible, because Petunia, in the last book, she talks about how she was jealous of her sister and wanting to be a witch.
Well, right. We know that that's not true, but it'd be an interesting scenario if it was true.
Yeah, it would. All right. First I got, the town never changes. Privet Drive never changes at all.
Yeah, it's more of a neighborhood or a suburb than a town, but yeah, you're right. And I think that's partly just kind of encompassing the whole Dursley mentality is never change, always be the same.
Yeah.
And that brings me to one of my points is Dudley grows up to be such a baby. He never changes. And what is his adult life going to be like? It's going to be really bad. Mm-hmm. Unless he just lives with his parents. You know what? That's what's going to happen. He's going to live with his parents till he's 80. And he's just going to inherit their house and live there and eat popcorn and candy all day.
Well, obviously his parents are going to give him their house because they give him everything else. Yeah,
that's an interesting thought. Is he ever going to really get a good job, a real job? I know Mr. Dursley is kind of a jerk, but at least he knows how to have a job. He's somewhere up higher in the ranks of being a drill salesman.
Yeah. Somehow.
But yeah, he just yells at people, so I don't know how he got there. Anyway, it's a really interesting. What is Dudley going to be like when he grows up? That's going to be not a pretty sight.
So when Harry talks about his dream, is it him remembering or is it him actually having that dream?
Oh, he dreams about a flying motorcycle, which is referring to the chapter before.
Sirius Black's motorcycle.
Yeah, Sirius Black's motorcycle that had Hagrid on it. And, you know what? I think that was kind of a memory, but it kind of translated into a dream. It was a memory at one point, but eventually it turned into a dream. Just being able to have kind of witnessed that as a baby, he realized it as an adult. I mean, because he was flying with Hagrid on the flying motorcycle. So that's probably what he was dreaming about. And I don't know, it might just be some sort of magic, or probably just a memory that kind of transferred into a dream.
Yeah.
Now, this is a little bit serious. Harry is legitly a really bad case of child abuse. Like, they treated him so badly. They, like, ignored him all the time. They gave him, they literally compared him between him and someone else, and he was always on the lower half, very low on the scale. And just imagine, like, what that would be like, especially since he was also bullied at school. A lot of kids who are bullied at school can come home to, to their parents who love them and things like that. Whereas Harry would come home from school from being bullied and be bullied more. The only escape he had was being alone. He had 0 friends at this point, and that's a really hard thing to think about. I mean, I was thinking about it. It just kind of made me suffocate. I was like, holy cow, how would I react if all I had was pain? That's all I knew.
Well, if you eventually after a couple years, like he's 11 now, so he'd be a little bit more used to it, like as he says.
Yeah, but you shouldn't be used to that type of thing. I don't know if you get used to that. I wouldn't, I don't think. I don't know.
Dudley gets, like, everything he wants. Like, even if he's whining or something, they try and make him feel better. They don't punish him at all.
Right. It's like, don't cry, Duddy Dums, and he's, like, smiling at Harry behind her. And it's just like, he's such a jerk, He gets everything he wants, and he knows it, and so he pushes for it. And sometimes it just wants to... Yeah. That's
how I feel too.
It's a fruit. Anyway, so it mentions how Harry can kind of grow his hair back unintentionally, and that makes me wonder. Nymphadora Tonks in number 5, how she can change her appearance. Does every witch and wizard have that ability if they learn it, or is that something that you're born with? And if so, is Harry born with it because he can make his hair length change?
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
Or maybe there's just some kind of spell that goes for that. I know there's like a spell that makes your teeth grow really long. Hermione gets that, and I don't know if it's book 1 or book 2, but something like that happens. And I was just wondering, is Harry? I'm trying to think of the word. Do you know the word where they can change?
Animagus.
No, not Animagus. That's where you can change it into an animal. But you can change your appearance, like Nymphadora Tonks. And I don't know, is Harry have that kind of blood in him?
I don't know. Why doesn't Harry like his appearance?
Oh, yeah, I noticed that, too. And that, I think, has to do with the whole bullying thing. If you were bullied all the time, even, normal people, it kind of makes you something you relate to, too. Because I think everybody kind of has that, I look kind of weird kind of vibe going on. And the only thing he likes is his scar, which is obvious because it's pretty cool.
Who wouldn't want to lighten
But, what's interesting is later on at the end, he'll wish he didn't have the scar. Right now, he's like, this is a cool scar. But later... he's going to be, like, hating it because it's what connects him to Voldemort and connects him to all that. And in the end, I think he realizes that he'd rather have not ever had that.
Yeah.
But at the point right now, it's his favorite thing about him. So things really shift throughout the story.
Yeah, they do.
My question is, did Mrs. Figg really break her leg? Or was this like Dumbledore or Mrs. Figg or someone finally giving Harry a chance to, go and have something interesting to do? Because I was thinking maybe, just maybe, they staged that so Harry wouldn't have to deal with all this crap going on. And maybe this was Dumbledore trying to break him into using magic a little bit so when he hears that he is a wizard, it's not going to be like, what? Yeah. So maybe he set up this chance to go...
with the vanishing glass and all that stuff.
Exactly. I don't think Dumbledore knew that specifically was going to happen, because I don't think he knew that Harry's a parcel tongue. But it's really interesting. But we don't even
know if it was even... she might have actually broken her leg.
Yeah,
so
she might have.
That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, just a skepticism. Anyway.
So, Mr. Dursley, when they're back at the house, Mr. Dursley says he likes to get his money's worth. Now, why is it his money's worth when he doesn't even pay for it with his presents? He gets presents and he's like, he likes to get his money's worth, but...
Oh, I think he's just pointing out the fact that he personally, Mr. Dursley, he's this popular guy and he wants everything he can get, and he's saying he's selfish and he wants everything he can get. And they take pride in that. They're like, you can get anything you want, son. And it's really interesting if you ask me. So, Piers, Dudley's friend, he's really interesting because he somehow put ups with Dudley. I don't know how he does it, but he's fine with Dudley. In fact, every one of Dudley's friends is fine with him. And I thought it was really interesting because Piers was in the car when Harry mentions the flying, bike or the flying motorcycle. And Mr. Vernon yells at Harry, and Piers is totally okay with this. He, knows all of this thing that's going on with, like, yelling at Harry and the abuse and everything like that. And he's like, total friends. My theory is that Dudley gets everything he wants, including video games and awesome bikes and remote control vehicles, things like that. And so he's like, he has everything. We go to his house because he has all the fun stuff. And so they just kiss up to him because he's like the rich kid. Even though they're not that rich, they just treat him like he is.
Pretend that
so
they are.
I guess that's kind of just that kind of thing right there. I thought that was really interesting.
So in the book, they comment about how they talk as Harry's not even in the room, where he's a slug or something. And so why do they do that? I mean, do they just hate him so much that they don't even care about his feelings? Or is it just because they're trying to be annoying?
I think they just don't care about him, and they're like, well, we don't have to include him, and this isn't his decision. They weren't going to give him any say in the decision of whether or not he got to go to the zoo or not. And so they were like, why would we ask him or talk to him? It's not like they're trying to take his feelings into account. They're just talking about him without having him in the conversation, basically. That's what's going on there.
Okay.
So, one thing, if I'm correct, snakes do not have eyelids. So when Nagini... Okay, that's another thing. When the snake winks at Harry, I think that's impossible. Second, the snake, it turns out, J.K. Rowling has confirmed, is Nagini. Nagini is the snake that escapes from the glass, or escapes from the zoo. And it's really interesting because Harry felt pity for that snake. He was like, you're all stuck in here and stuff. And then he lets him out, and where does he go? To Voldemort, eventually, and totally becomes the worst snake we've ever met in the world, and eats people for Voldemort. He becomes a Horcrux. And
I bet he regrets that.
Yeah. So,
Man.
Anyway, I thought that was really interesting that Harry actually felt pity for the snake and eventually had to go and, destroy the snake, even though Neville, high five Neville, ends up killing him. So, it's really interesting.
So, when Mr. Dursley locks Harry in his closet, he says no meals. How long was he meaning to keep him from no meals? Wouldn't he die of hunger?
Yeah, I think in the movies they said no meals for a week or something like that.
Okay.
And obviously, I think in the book it meant for like the rest of the day, tomorrow he would have like enough food to survive. Not good food, but food. Obviously, they're not gonna kill him. The Dursleys are heartless, but they're not that heartless. No, I don't know if they would. I don't know if like the government even knows that Harry's there, because if they would, they would have to check on him or something. But anyway, so yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. But I'm pretty sure that they just meant by the end of the day, they would give him enough food to survive, and not good food. One more thing. This is our last thing. It's really interesting in the last moments of the chapter when Harry is talking about his past and how he met a bunch of strangers, and one of them was this robed person on a bus. And as we know from Mr. Dursley, or from Mr. Weasley, they don't very often, witches and wizards don't very often travel by Muggle transportation. Why was this witch or wizard on the bus?
Maybe it failed his exam for apparating.
His exam for apparating? Yeah. That may be, but even then, he has flu powder, and he has,
It's also true.
Like brooms and flying cars. Those aren't very often. But, so I don't understand why this witch or wizard was on the bus. I guess throughout the books there are a few moments when, they use Muggle transportation.
Yeah,
but
they do.
Maybe he had a younger child with him or something, or who couldn't apparate or things like that. So,
or maybe he was with a Muggle when he
that's true.
He might.
There are witches and wizards who know Muggles. So,
but also when he says they all vanished, so he obviously apparated or somehow disappeared after.
That's a good point. So does this mean that they are witches and wizards seeking Harry out, like following him to meet him,
like in the Truman Show?
Is that Harry Potter? And then they just like apparate over there. Hey! And then they gone. I met Harry Potter! Anyway, it's really interesting. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching this video. We had a lot of fun, listening to the chapter. We listened to it on CD. And we just love discussing Harry Potter. Harry Potter's been a part of our lives for a long time. Make sure to come back next Friday for another video about Harry Potter. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.